our in-studio guest, the Charles Goyette Show. Back to the phones after the news break, 602-277-KFNX.
News and weather every half hour around the clock. Coverage you can count on. KFNX News Talk Radio 1100.
7:35 in the morning, the Charles Goyette Show from KFNX News Talk Radio 1100. And, of course, thank you for joining us, and our thanks to Congressman Ron Paul for stopping by our studio during his campaign swing through Arizona. Congressman Ron Paul has formed an exploratory committee to consider seeking the presidency, the nomination of the Republican Party. That requires obviously a lot of money. You will not have the support, I presume, of the Republican Party establishment. So that's a foregone conclusion, right? So you're going to have to raise a lot of money through the internet and from people that are just constituents.
Right, that's it. You have to go one-on-one, and there'll be small donations, but enough of them will add up.
Well, I actually think this could be a prairie fire year in America, and I'm not given to be a Don Quixote tilting at windmills. But some of the reasons are that people have got to be enormously dissatisfied with the R's and the D's and what they have done for us. The conventional Republicans, the conventional Democrats, in my view, the poisoning of partisanship. I mean, Congressman, is there any doubt that if this war, with the outcome that we have encountered, had been a Bill Clinton initiative, that the Republicans would be up in arms about it?
Absolutely. They are very narrow partisans, and if Bill Clinton had been doing this, the Republicans would have opposed to it. Just think, it's not too many years ago that our current president won an election by being strongly critical of an interventionist foreign policy. He criticized Clinton for being in Somalia and Kosovo, and did not want to be the world policeman, and did not want to interfere in these internal affairs. And yet, at the same time, he's doing exactly the same thing. Remember, he talked about a humble foreign policy, kind of things that I was very sympathetic for, and I was hoping that we would have a change in foreign policy. But their answer now is, well, 9/11 changed everything. Unfortunately, that is true. Psychologically, it did change, but it shouldn't have. There's no reason you have to sacrifice liberties and start wars that are unnecessary just because we were attacked on 9/11. We should go after the enemy, not just to go after the entire world.
Yeah. Well, in describing your campaign and the prospects for your campaign and what could be a prairie fire year, I've said to my audience that what I believe makes you unique is if you took any of the Arizona congressional delegation. They're little known they're known in their district. They may be known across the state a little bit, but they're not known specifically outside of the state of Arizona. Whereas you have a constituency, and this is hard for people who don't know you to grasp, that you as a Republican congressman from Texas have a constituency in every congressional district in the land.
Yes, and that's helpful, and I don't think it's so much a reflection of myself as much as a reflection of the views that I hold, because, we talked a little bit earlier on about the monetary issue. That's been an issue that I've dealt with for 30 years, and just the size of government is a big issue in individual liberty. Now, since I have opposed and fought against an interventionist foreign policy for so many years, and we're seeing the dire consequences of a failed policy, all of a sudden I think these views are becoming much more popular and people are becoming more interested, and it brings a coalition of people together. It's just not conservative Republicans that are interested in these viewpoints, because if you're concerned about civil liberties, you might pick up some moderates and some liberals on this issue. In fact, there are some liberals that would agree with me on the non-interventionist foreign policy, even though that had traditionally been a Republican position. So on the economic issues, that tends to be more of a conservative issue. So I think it's a great position to hold, a great philosophy. And, the other thing that is so attractive to is we can fulfill this policy by just merely following our oath of office. And if you happen to believe that maybe the rule of law is worth something, maybe we should pay attention to it. And if you want to change something in the Constitution, do it in a deliberate manner, but not to do it by just totally ignoring the Constitution. And that has appeal across the board as well.
Let's go to the phones for Congressman Ron Paul. Here is Mark in Phoenix. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Charles. Good morning, Congressman Paul. It's a pleasure to speak with you both. I have two quick statements before I get to my question. First, Congressman, I think I saw that you were going to be on Bill Maher tonight. I look forward to seeing you on television this evening. Second, I think every American should ingrain this in their brain. Those that would trade liberty for security will not receive, nor should they deserve either. And that gets to my question. I know what my answer is, but I'd like to hear what you both think. What do you think is the greatest threat to the United States today?
Well, to me, the greatest threat is the size and scope of our federal government and the intrusion of our personal liberties. Whether it's our
I was going to say the same thing. I think the greatest threat to our country is ourselves. It's not Iran, not Iraq. It's ordinary individuals being so dissatisfied with their government and with the size of their government and the freedoms that their government is taking away from them.
You know, this to me is so true, because if you look at all the countries of the world that we're invading and threatening and intimidating, they are totally incapable of threatening us. I mean, here we have created a preemptive war against Iraq. They had no Army, Navy, Air Force, missiles, nothing. And yet they were painted like it was Hitler who was going to take over the world the next day. Same thing with the Iranians. The Iranians have no interest in provoking us into attacking them. They would do what they could to prevent this. So this assumption that they're about to attack us here at home, but on a daily basis, the U.S. Congress and our courts and our executive branch are attacking our personal liberties continuously, passing laws that give away our sovereignty and take away our privacy, and removing rights like habeas corpus. Constantly, we are being undermined here at home, and yet the question is, are there more people like you as an individual who believe that our own government is a threat, or do people believe that we have to give up some of our freedoms in order to be safe and secure? Economically, the large majority of Americans believe that the federal government is the safety net, that you can only be taken care of by the government, and therefore you have to endorse the entitlement welfare state. But that's doomed to bankruptcy, and besides, it's based on a fraudulent notion of theft, that you have to steal from one group to give to another. It doesn't work. So one day we're going to have to challenge this, and I'm afraid the real challenge isn't going to come until we face our bankruptcy.
Darren in Phoenix, Congressman Ron Paul on the Charles Goyette Show. Hey, Darren.
How are you doing, Charles? And
Good.
Congressman Paul?
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I honestly hope that your campaign gains legs, as I see no other candidate who can bring our nation back from the brink. Dr. Paul, you touched on the dollar a few minutes ago. So I'd like to ask you to provide your insight regarding the impact of Iraq moving from the dollar to the euro for oil transactions back in 2001, and how much that played into our invasion of Iraq. And do you think this might be the same reason or a part of the reason that we appear to about to replay that scenario with Iran? I'm at work right now, so I'll listen off the air.
No, I think it's significant. I don't think that's the only issue, but it is true, since Bretton Woods was established right after World War II, it was agreed that the nations would, in particular Saudi Arabia, would always use the dollar to buy oil. And Saddam Hussein moved away from the dollar right before he was invaded, and this probably was part of the reason, although there were other factors as well. And the same thing, the Iranians have threatened to do the same thing. So I think this plays a major role. I don't think it's the only role, but if they do move away from the dollar significantly, this will bring us to our knees, because the dollars will flow back home, interest rates are going to go up very high, we're going to have domestic inflation, and our economy will remain weak. So it's high stakes to keep the dollar in this position. Matter of fact, even those who are taking our dollars, have so many of them, they're working with us to try to keep the collapse of the dollar from coming. But I do believe that the dollar is interrelated with our foreign policy as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for your call. By the way, I wanted to loop back around. I understood, too, that you're going to be on Bill Maher's show tonight. Did you tape an interview with him fairly